The air inside the funeral home was thick with lilies and lies. Olivia stood motionless beside the casket, her black veil clinging to tear-streaked cheeks. Her lipstick, once flawless, had begun to bleed at the corners. Grief pressed in from every angle. Whispers fluttered around her like moths, but she didn't hear them. Not until one pierced the fog. He died with her, not at home. A voice, low, purposeful behind her. Olivia blinked once, then twice. The air changed. The grief didn't vanish. It calcified. She looked down at the casket, fingers tightening. Suddenly, she wasn't burying a husband. She was burying a liar. The woman stood 3 rows back, blonde, delicate, pretending to mourn. Olivia had never seen her before, but instinct screamed her name. She watched as the stranger dabbed her eyes with practiced sorrow, then touched a necklace Olivia recognized. His rage stirred beneath her skin, hot and bitter. Olivia crushed the funeral program in her palm, the paper curling under her nails like bone. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse. She memorized every detail, the curve of the woman's lips, the false empathy in her brow. Grief was no longer her anchor. Vengeance was. Outside, the rain came down in slanted sheets. Olivia didn't run. She let it drench her. Her mascara melted into her cheeks. Her cigarette hissed as it lit. She stared up at the storm, a single thought pulsing like thunder, as she held him while he died. Not Olivia Tando Tia, not his wife. A stranger. The betrayal tasted worse than death itself. There had been signs, late nights, unexplained absences. But this, dying in another woman's arms? That wasn't infidelity. That was erasure. Olivia wiped her mouth with the back of her hand, smearing red across her cheek like war paint. She would cry one last time, then she would make sure the other woman never forgot what she took. The veil came off slowly, like skin peeling from a wound. Olivia sat at her vanity, the soft lamplight reflecting off glassy eyes now dry and focused. In front of her, a spread of photos, candid, surveillance, screenshots. She didn't ask how she'd gotten them. She just circled one with a red marker, the woman from the funeral. Name, Callie Rains Stoytel. Dehatinien Sao. Occupation, boutique florist. The irony made Olivia laugh, sharp and joyless. Flowers. Of course. The same roses he'd brought home, pretending they were from a client. Olivia stared at her reflection, the mirror warping her smeared lipstick into a crooked smile. Revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be surgical, petal by petal. From across the street, the shop looked like a painting. Golden light, soft petals, delicate peace. Callie moved through it all like she belonged there. Olivia stood beneath her umbrella, heart frozen beneath her coat. Watching, counting steps, timing movements. The betrayal wasn't just in the bed, it was in how effortlessly Callie had slipped into mourning. Olivia watched her touch a rose, smell it. Her fingers flexed, the same hands that had held him while he bled. Olivia whispered his name once, just to hear it in the air. It sounded hollow now, dead, like him. But Callie, she was alive. Too alive. And that wasn't justice. The urn arrived the next morning, delayed by weather, wrapped in silk. Olivia placed it on the counter and stared at it for hours. No prayers. No ceremony, just silence and ash. Her hand moved before her mind did, swept the box to the floor. It shattered. Ashes spilled like smoke across the marble. She didn't flinch. Let them settle in cracks and crevices like he had in every lie. In the silence she spoke, "You don't get to rest easy. Not after what he did." Olivia sat down, lit a cigarette, and watched his remains scatter. Her tears didn't return. Only the sound of broken ceramic, and the first piece of a plan coming together. She wanted it to be quiet, not loud or messy. A whisper, not a scream. Olivia placed the black rose carefully inside the box, its petals soaked in perfume and memory. Tucked beneath it, a photograph of him in bed, half naked, face relaxed in Callie's arms. She sealed the box with red wax, the stamp pressing down like finality. No note. No name. Ciao. Just a ghost from the past delivered like a bouquet. Candlelight trembled across Olivia's face as she tied the final ribbon. Grief had taught her many things: patience, silence, precision. But rage? Rage had taught her how to make a gift bleed. Callie opened the box with the warmth of habit, expecting thank you notes or orders. Her smile lasted 2 seconds. Then the black rose caught her breath, and the photograph stole it. She dropped both like they burned. Her hands trembled as she stared, the blood draining from her face. Behind her, the hum of the refrigerator unit buzzed like accusation. No note, no name. But she knew. Her past had arrived, petal-wrapped and precise. Outside, the street remained calm, but inside, Callie's world began to fracture. Olivia watched from a passing car, hidden behind tinted glass, lips pursed. Phase 1, confusion. Phase 2 would cut deeper. Olivia couldn't sleep. The mirror in her bedroom had cracked weeks ago. Now it reflected a stranger with wild eyes and lips stained like blood. She had crushed the leftover roses in her hands, the petals staining her fingers red. She studied herself, searching for the wife she used to be. Gone, she whispered aloud. She got his last breath. She'll get more than that. Her voice was low, steady, like a spell. It wasn't about jealousy. It was about erasure. She had built a life, sacrificed years, and Callie had stolen the final moment. Olivia smeared the lipstick further across her mouth like war paint. Tomorrow, the next step would leave a scar. But she chose midnight for the delivery, a time for endings. Olivia placed the bouquet on Callie's doorstep with hands that no longer shook. Tucked inside was a letter, folded with care, ink smudged by purple. It read, "He whispered your name when he died, but he screamed mine when he lived." Beneath the words, a lipstick kiss, smeared, savage, final. She stepped back into the shadows as a dog barked somewhere in the distance. No mask, no fear, just clarity. Olivia didn't want an apology. She wanted Callie to carry the weight forever. Grief had built the fire, but vengeance would feed it until there was nothing left but smoke. Callie's world had turned cold. She stood barefoot on the kitchen tile, the letter crushed to her chest, mascara bleeding into her skin. The bouquet lay shattered on the floor, rose petals like blood around her feet. She reread the letter again and again, as if repetition would dull the blade. But it only cut deeper. The kiss mark haunted her, not because of who sent it, but because it came with no demand. No confrontation, only judgment. And that silence was worse than any scream. Somewhere across town, Olivia sat by the window, staring at the same rising sun. The war wasn't over, but the battlefield was shifting. The rain returned on the day Olivia chose to visit his grave. She carried what was left of the urn, jagged pieces wrapped in black lace. No umbrella, no eulogy, just vengeance in her veins. She knelt, placed the fragments at the base of the tombstone and whispered, "You get peace, neither does she." Lightning split the sky behind her. The cemetery emptied as thunder rolled, but Olivia remained, a silhouette of mourning turned to malice. She had loved him once, but love, she learned, dies in silence, and in its grave, rage blooms like a rose, thorned and unapologetic. The letters were the last to go. Folded, yellowed, once sacred, now fuel. Olivia lit them one by one in the kitchen sink, watching flames lick away the words that once held her heart together. Smoke curled upward like ghosts escaping. The room filled with ash, but she didn't cough. She didn't cry. Her black sleeves were damp, but the tears had stopped long ago. Love had become a lie, and lies had no right to linger. She watched the final letter disintegrate, the ink bleeding into flame, and whispered, "You don't live here anymore." Closure wasn't quiet. It burned. And it didn't ask permission. They met in daylight, by silent agreement, a cafe with glass walls and too much light. Callie wore white, like denial. Olivia wore black, like purpose. Neither touched their coffee. The silence between them stretched until it hurt. Callie finally spoke. "I didn't know." Olivia didn't blink. "You did by the end." Her voice was calm, sharp. Callie looked away, guilt etched deep. Olivia leaned in, voice like cold steel. "He gave you death. I gave you truth. No shouting. No dramatics. Just facts." Olivia stood, left her coffee untouched, and walked away. The door shut like a verdict. Some wars are won in silence. Olivia walked through the park at dusk, the fog curling around her like breath. The trees whispered with falling leaves, each one a whisper of what had been. She felt the pull of memory, laughter, promises, his voice in the dark. But they didn't hurt anymore. Not the same way. The black coat wrapped her like armor. She didn't look back. Grief had tried to drown her. Rage had built the raft. Now only silence remained. A silence that wasn't empty, but clean. In its stillness, she found a kind of freedom. Not peace, but power. And that was enough. She returned one last time. Not to mourn, not to remember, but to end it. Olivia stood over his grave as the sky cracked into morning. No veil this time. Just bare skin, wind-bitten and calm. She placed a single red rose on the stone, the only color in a world of gray. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't love. It was punctuation. The final mark on a sentence that had lingered too long. The fog wrapped around her ankles, cool and clean. She whispered no prayers. Only 4 words. "You don't haunt me." Then she walked away, and the ground kept its silence. Back at home, Olivia opened the closet and pulled out the black dress. The one she'd worn to the funeral, the one soaked in tears and fury. She folded it once, laid it in a box, and slid it beneath the bed. In its place, she hung a red coat, sharp, tailored, unapologetic. Sunlight hit the fabric and flared against the walls. She stared at it for a moment. Not smiling, just ready. Grief had clothed her in black. Rage had armed her in silence. But what came next would be hers alone. No ghosts. No echoes. Just the living. Just the woman who refused to stay buried beside him. She passed the shop without pausing. The air was cool, the street still damp from last night's rain. Callie stood behind the counter, arranging lilies, glancing up just as Olivia's reflection crossed the window. Their eyes didn't meet. Olivia didn't flinch. She just kept walking, red coat blazing against the morning grey. Behind her, the bell above the shop door chimed, but not for her. Not anymore. Revenge hadn't brought her peace, but it had returned something else. Control. And in a world full of women expected to forgive, she had chosen a different ending. One where the fire never needed to fade.